It's time again for another installment of the basics, and just like the last episode, I'm going to talk to you more about risk. And whereas we did your first turn on the last episode, on this show I want to show you what happens when you're several turns into the game and you've pretty much completed a lot of your military build-up as well as a couple of attacks, as have the other opponents in the game. So let's get started, shall we? So we're continuing our simulated game of 3 players, and we are further into the game now. And what happened is everybody has built up their forces and there has been some war. You as the red player now control 16 territories. The blue guy has 14 and the green guy has 11. Now, when you're at this stage of the game, you're noticing that different from when you started, you've pretty much lost your presence in Asia, but because of my strategy that I mentioned of going after Europe, not only have you taken over Europe, but you've expanded into North America, and you've also managed to get a foothold in Australia. Unfortunately, South America and Africa are still not yours, and that's okay. Now, you're probably wondering what the best course of action is at this point. As I've mentioned before, Asia is a meat grinder. I would not bother building up forces in there. I would let it go for the meantime. Plus, the blue guy now has 10 armies sitting in Japan. He is slowly arming up across Asia and Africa, and he's probably going to make a comeback at some point. Because as you can see, he doesn't have much going on this side of the world. The green guy, on the other hand, has built up and taken over a few territories rather, in North America, and he's starting to build up forces in Lower Asia, and he's still hanging on to parts of Africa. This is the perfect time for you to identify where on the map has the smallest buildup of your opponents and go for it. And believe it or not, I am going to say this, because North America is getting built up by just about everybody, Africa, more specifically the northern part of Africa, is the weakest part right now. And because you have a build-up, you're best to start attacking Africa and going through there. And the reason for this is, once you're done with Africa, you can turn your eyes to South America via this little connector bridge and go there, because it's not as strong as it looks. Because you were smart and took over Europe at the beginning, you can now do this. I would definitely recommend moving into Africa at this point. Now, you're probably wondering why, if you already control 3 out of 4 territories in Australia, why you don't go for the 4th instead of going for Africa. As I've mentioned on previous shows that have dealt with risk, there's only one way in or out of the Australian region. Even if you take over that 4th area, if there's a build-up going on in Asia, which is happening in this simulated game, you're going to have a hell of a time getting out of Australia to get a foothold in Asia. You're better off to go for what you don't have and what's lightly guarded, which is, in this case, in this simulated game, is Africa. That is the strategy that you want to use. When you're this far along, you find the least armed up area of the map and you go for it. That's all for today. Have a great day, everybody.